Justice has finally caught up with Brittney Griner in the harshest way possible. After her racist attack on Caitlin Clark went viral, and the WNBA seemingly tried to cover it up, Karma stepped in and delivered the perfect punishment.
Indiana Fever and Atlanta Dream played. Indiana Fever is where Caitlin Clark plays. Atlanta Dream is where Brittney Griner plays. Now you tell me what it looks like Brittney Griner is saying here. For a little bit of context, this was in the fourth quarter after Brittney Griner fouled out against Caitlin Clark and Indiana Fever would go on to win by 5. Now I'm going to tell you what I think she said. Let's play it back. Looks to me like she is saying trash and then calling Caitlin Clark a bleep white girl. Just a reminder, this is who Joe Biden traded for the Russian merchant of death. So many WNBA players hate Caitlin Clark so much when she is the best thing that could have happened to the league. And she's not the best thing that happened to the league because she's white.
The league that spent weeks shielding Brittney Griner has just made a decision that changes everything. Griner's career could be in serious jeopardy. And honestly, she's facing the consequences she brought on herself. What's more satisfying? Watching Griner finally held accountable for her racist comments, or seeing the WNBA finally enforce its own rules? The moment everyone's been waiting for has arrived. After ignoring her attack on Caitlin Clark, the WNBA just dropped a bombshell that's sending shockwaves through the basketball world. The very league that once protected her has now been forced to act, and the fallout is absolutely devastating.
If you want to get people never to watch the WNBA, this is an amazing way to do it. If the league is going to be rooted in this sort of nastiness with regard to its only real star, good luck to them. Well, folks, the left has a real problem in the United States. They've spent the last several decades talking about how racism is an endemic problem in American life. And there's a problem with that problem, which is there's not enough.
Let's start with what led to this moment of instant karma. Brittney Griner was caught on camera, clear as day, mouthing trash F-ing white girl after fouling out of a game against Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever.
Brittney Griner was caught on tape during a game with the Indiana Fever, dropping racial slurs against Caitlin Clark. I mean, pretty obviously doing so.
Attack fouls that we were talking about earlier today.
And it doesn't take a lot of genius to lip read Brittney Griner, whose voice, by the way, is about as low as mine is, calling her trash and an effing white girl. Now, of course, if Caitlin Clark had ever suggested the same in reverse, using black as opposed to white in that sentence, that'd be the end of her WNBA career. But Brittney Griner is going strong. It's totally fine.
The footage was undeniable. Multiple experts confirmed the lip reading, and the racist intent was obvious to anyone paying attention. But instead of acting swiftly, the WNBA jumped into damage control mode to shield their veteran star. This is the same league that launched investigations into imaginary racism from Indiana Fever fans, yet suddenly went blind when one of their own was caught making a blatantly racist remark on national TV. They ignored the evidence, brushed aside the outrage, and hoped the controversy would fade away. But karma doesn't forget. And Brittney Griner's wall of protection just collapsed in spectacular fashion.
Seeing the 3 games, what else happened to everybody else?
I mean, I know there's always consequences to actions. You know, what I did, I already know that I was going to get, some time for that. And, I respect, I got 3 games. Okay. Not disputing that at all. Do I think that it should have been 3 across the board? Boom, everybody involved in it, 3-3-3. I think that would have been, honestly, fair. I would have been happy today with that. Not today. And it's not because of my suspension. I'll take ownership.
The contract suspension that just hit Griner isn't just about one incident. It's the result of a pattern of behavior the league can no longer overlook. This is the same player who complained about crowd noise simply because fans were finally showing up to watch games. The same person who was rescued from international imprisonment, only to return and make racist comments about fellow American athletes. The entitlement, the arrogance, and the complete lack of gratitude have finally caught up with her.
Brittney Griner is playing a game, and this is what Brittney Griner calls. I was not going to comment on any of this stuff until this took place. Watch what she says. The entire internet has reacted to this. Here's Brittney Griner. They're playing against the Indiana Fever, and look what she's saying. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, the ticky-tack fouls that we were talking about earlier today.
Well, that pretty much sounds like trash effing white girl.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest.
So the whole market reacts to this with Brittney Griner, right? And then the other quote, Rob, then I'm going to wrap this up and then I'm going to go to Adam. Put the quote of Brittney Griner, what she said about the NBA. This is so funny how all this stuff works out, right? She says, this is from Brittney. Every time we play her, there's this commotion. like this loud rumbling from the stands. Turns out it's people, thousands of them, just sitting there, watching on purpose. It's very disruptive. It's called a freaking game that they pay you money to play. Don't play the game.
Though, financial hit from this suspension is absolutely brutal for Griner. She's not just losing game checks. She's losing endorsement deals, sponsorships, and any real chance of salvaging her reputation. Let's not forget, the US traded a convicted arms dealer to bring her home, and her response since has been marked by hostility and entitlement toward the very country that saved her. Every dollar lost is a reminder of how much she threw away in a single moment of racist anger. But what makes this karma so fitting is the timing. The WNBA simply can't afford to protect problematic players anymore. Caitlin Clark has brought a new wave of fans, media attention, and revenue to the league. And those casual fans, they're not going to tolerate racist outbursts from veterans who should know better. For once, the business case for accountability finally outweighed the politics of protection. The suspension sent shockwaves through social media. Most people thought Griner was untouchable. She had weathered everything: the racist remarks, the dismissive attitude toward fans, and years of entitlement. But now, the consequences have arrived, and the protective shield she's long relied on, it's finally starting to crack.
By Autumn Johnson. BG, right now you have 10 points, 5 rebounds. We see the Atlanta Dream as being very... Right now she's talking to the refs about holding. We're going to send it back to you guys. Very important questions.
The timing of this suspension couldn't be worse for Griner, as it comes just when the WNBA is trying to ride the wave of growth brought in by Caitlin Clark. Sponsors and networks don't want to associate with players caught making racist remarks on live TV. The league office finally recognized that defending Griner was more costly than disciplining her. Money talks, and Griner's actions were becoming too expensive to overlook. The clause that enabled this suspension was always there, hidden in the standard player contracts that few ever scrutinized. The WNBA always had the authority to act, but chose not to, until financial pressure forced their hand. That delay makes their earlier inaction even more unacceptable, and this long overdue punishment all the more satisfying. Justice may have taken time, but its arrival feels that much sweeter. Griner's teammates and backers are scrambling to justify her behavior, calling the punishment unfair and the evidence questionable, arguing that veteran players deserve more leeway. But none of that changes the reality. She was caught making racist remarks about the league's most high-profile star on national TV. The footage is undeniable, and no spin can change what millions saw. Clark's supporters, who had been demanding accountability for weeks, are now expressing relief. They watched as the league protected Griner while investigating baseless accusations against Fever fans. This suspension feels like long overdue justice after a stretch of clear bias and double standards. The reaction within the basketball community is one of relief. People were beginning to lose faith in the league's integrity. The precedent set here is massive. It signals that no one is exempt from consequences, regardless of status or past achievements. That's the kind of accountability needed to restore trust among fans and sponsors. The culture of favoritism is finally facing real pushback. Media coverage of the suspension has been particularly harsh, forcing journalists to confront their own prior biases. Many outlets had downplayed or ignored Griner's comments, but now must explain why they weren't more vocal from the start. The disconnect between media framing and public sentiment has never been more obvious. Financially, the fallout for Griner extends far beyond her WNBA salary. Endorsements are being dropped, speaking invites rescinded, and future income is evaporating. That's exactly what happens when public figures cross such lines, especially when it's all caught on camera. Corporate America doesn't tolerate racism, especially not in the social media era. The suspension also lays bare the hollowness of the WNBA's No Space for Hate campaign. Launched with big promises, the league initially ignored the most obvious breach of those values. That it took public outrage to prompt action shows how shallow their commitment really was. The hypocrisy is staggering, even for pro sports. The context of the US prisoner exchange only deepens the irony and the sense of poetic justice. The country secured Griner's freedom in a major international deal, and in return, she made racist comments against fellow Americans. That level of entitlement is breathtaking, and makes her downfall feel earned. This isn't just about Griner either. Other players are taking notice. The assumption that league protection is automatic is now shattered. Players who've long pushed boundaries are wondering if they're next. The culture is shifting, and fear of consequences can be a powerful force for change. This all coincides with key negotiations for TV deals and sponsorships, and the league knew it couldn't let racism cloud those talks. protecting Griner had become more costly than disciplining her. When millions are on the line, accountability becomes a business necessity. Online reaction to the suspension has been overwhelmingly supportive. Fans who'd lost faith are now applauding the move, seeing it as a rare case of the league finally walking the talk. The moral and financial decisions aligned, making this the right move on all fronts. Public opinion turned against Griner the moment the video dropped. Legally, while she might try to contest the suspension, the overwhelming evidence and clear contract terms make any challenge a long shot. She'd only attract more scrutiny and damage her image further. The ripple effects for coaching staffs are real too. Front offices are rethinking how they handle problematic stars. The cost-benefit analysis has changed. GMs now realize that looking the other way might come at a high price. Internationally, this episode sends a clear signal. Griner's behavior damaged how American basketball is perceived, and the WNBA's response, or lack thereof, was being watched abroad. A firm response now helps restore the league's image. Fan reaction has been eye-opening. Many who had checked out are cautiously optimistic that maybe, just maybe, the league will start upholding its stated values. This could be a major turning point if the league proves it's not just a one-time fix. Psychologically, the impact on Griner must be intense. She likely believed she was untouchable, with the league backing her through every scandal. Now that shield is gone. For someone used to being protected, that realization is brutal. Other players are watching closely. The league's consistency going forward will determine whether this sets a real standard or fades as a fluke. If enforcement continues, it could prevent future problems through deterrence. If not, the credibility crisis will persist. Sponsors acted fast, pulling support, demanding action. Their pressure was likely instrumental. In today's climate, no brand wants to be tied to racism, especially when the evidence goes viral. Clark herself is likely feeling relieved. She's endured weeks of hostility while trying to stay focused. The league finally stepping in signals that her presence matters, and that she won't have to deal with such abuse silently anymore. This goes beyond basketball. It's about professional sports holding people accountable. Other leagues are paying attention. Strong enforcement could set a new standard industry-wide. Weak responses, on the other hand, send the message that big names can get away with anything. Coaches are navigating a tough line, balancing loyalty to players with their own reputations. The suspension gives them a chance to speak out without risking backlash. It's a reset. Griner's agents are in crisis mode. Her image is tarnished, her marketability tanked. Future deals will be harder to negotiate. Teams now see her as a liability, not an asset. That changes everything. Retirement talk is already starting. With this level of controversy and her career winding down, opportunities will be scarce. This might be the final chapter of a troubled run. That in itself feels like a fitting conclusion. The legacy damage is the most painful blow. Griner's career, once filled with accolades, will now always carry this stain. A moment of racist anger erased years of achievement. It wasn't worth it. And now, it never will be. Compared to others who were suspended for far less, this highlights how much protection Griner received for years. The double standard was obvious, but now the rules are finally being applied evenly. The investigation behind the scenes reportedly uncovered more footage and testimonies, making the league's case airtight. The evidence was too strong to ignore or dispute. The PR crisis caused by Griner's outburst was massive. The league worked for years to build sponsor and fan trust, only to risk it all on one player's conduct. This move is about protecting that investment too. Reports suggest Griner will need to complete education programs if she hopes to return. Sensitivity, training, public apologies, community outreach. For someone with her ego, that's a serious come down. In the end, it's satisfying to see instant karma catch up with someone who acted like she was above consequences. Griner spent years showing entitlement and hostility, culminating in a racist attack on the player doing the most to grow the league. Her suspension proves no one is immune forever. Accountability always catches up. If you believe justice was served, hit that like button and subscribe for more real talk.